Good morning. Good morning. It is very early morning here in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. And you may hear me speaking a bit more softly than I normally do because I'm pre recording this, if you did notice. And usually we do a live at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesdays. But today we're doing it a little differently because I actually have some end of month goals that I'm working towards. And so I need to make sure that I pre-record this live just in case the time slot for 10:30 isn't available for me today like it usually would be. So thank you all for taking the time to listen in to this pre-recorded episode. So this is the Plant Your Seeds of Transformation podcast with Coach Donna Marie. This is produced by Lead Like a Queen Coaching and Consulting LLC. And thank you again for taking the time to listen in. So the last time you all joined us, we were talking about caregivers do not have to give up on their dreams. They can still dream. That's what we talked about last time. And I want to make sure that you have a reminder to go back and listen to that if you didn't catch that. That particular episode was actually partially recorded from my vehicle. So part of the recording is not very good quality because of the challenges of remote live recordings. But I did want to make sure that you knew that I did at least put an introduction on it for the podcast on the other platforms outside of YouTube and to help make sure that people knew what to expect there. Now, regarding today's episode, I really do want to dig a little deeper on this topic of empowering caregivers. However, this information that I'm talking about on all these episodes is not just applicable to whoever I target the video towards. I spoke towards caregivers last week because I just had a passion in my heart. I had I guess, an inkling that there was somebody out there that I need to encourage. Today, let's see if we can talk more to those who are supporting um, people who are dealing with mental health. If you're a caregiver to someone who's dealing with chronic, severe mental health problems, oh, it's a whole different level. And it can affect you in a lot of different ways that caregiving for someone with a physical disability. Um, you may never experience some of the things you experience when you're dealing with someone with a chronic mental illness. So, first of all, let's preface this by saying these, again, are general tips that can be applied to other parts of your life. Even if you're not a caregiver, you may be a caregiver at some point, or you may care about somebody who is a caregiver. So these things may be helpful. So let's see if we can pull out 4 things for you to focus on when you are a mental health caregiver so that A, you can take good care of yourself while you're doing that because that's intense work. And if you get burnt out, they will not be able to depend on you. B, so that you may be able to kind of know what direction to point yourself in if you need additional support around caregiving for someone with a mental illness. I've got a lot of passion about this topic too, and because this is something that our family has faced over this since about 2020. Yeah, that's when it all started, but it intensified in 2022. So we are dealing with things the best that we can. And it is definitely better than it was, but it's not perfect and it will never be. When you're dealing with mental illness, there's so many factors that come into play. It's extremely complex. So expect that. There is no cookie cutter solution. Anybody can give any psychiatrist, any physician, any hospital, any treatment center. Nobody has all the answers for these things. This is something that has to be worked out and figured out over time. And even when that's done, Stuff can still change. So I just want to encourage you, if you are a person who is a caregiver to someone with a mental health condition that's chronic and severe, take care of yourself mentally. You need therapy. You cannot support somebody that has a chronic mental health condition and not get support for your own mental health too. You just can't do that. That is a recipe for disaster. And I'm fortunate because I was already in therapy prior to around the time when our loved one started having their first episodes. Okay, so number one, get yourself a therapist that you can see every single week. It will make a difference for you personally to manage your own emotions, to deal with your own baggage or issues or whatever. But it will also help you, if you allow it, to communicate better with everyone around you, not just your loved one that you're worried about or that you've seen dealing with chronic mental health issues. So that's number one. Number one is get a therapist for yourself. Number two, if the person is on medication, ask for them to attend family therapy with you, a separate session with a family therapist. Many times the individual therapist will not do family therapy also. So it will have to be a different therapist. And if you have good insurance, it'll pay for both. It'll pay for your individual therapist. It'll pay for your main therapist. If you don't have insurance, 'tis the season. This is November. Or excuse me, it's October 31st, actually. We're coming into November. This is open enrollment season for healthcare.gov. So I hope that you'll go check that out. Also, if you know an insurance broker, a health insurance broker, they work free of charge to you. There is no fee to you for hiring a healthcare broker. If you don't hire a healthcare broker, you have to be really good at using the filters on healthcare.gov. Okay, healthcare.gov can be a little daunting. There's a lot of choices there. And sometimes using those filters can be a bit imperfect. So you want to make sure that you have proper support. A healthcare insurance broker can definitely help support you and make sure that you're finding the resources that are the best for you, the most affordable for you, and help make sure that you don't end up with the plan that's going to exclude your medication that you're already taking, or that won't pay for, but a certain limited amount of behavioral health. You want to make sure that you have a good plan. So I want to highly recommend for you to get an insurance broker. I don't have one to recommend, but I can recommend that your state insurance commission office through your whatever state. I'm in Georgia, so it would be state of Georgia insurance commissioner office. They have a list of registered licensed insurance brokers. So you can obtain or access that list through your insurance commissioner office. So, number one, again, get your own therapist. Do whatever you have to do to make that happen. If you can pay out of pocket, definitely look into that. But remember, and I've talked about this in other episodes, there's no guarantee that that therapist that you tap into is going to be a good fit for you. So date, date around, try different therapists. If the first therapist you go to, you don't feel like it's a good fit, you're not obligated to stay with them. A lot of times, I know how I am. In the past, I've been rigid. And once I start something, I don't want to stop it, right? Well, as part of my recovery and healing process myself, I've been learning to let go of things a little faster when they're not a good fit for me. Um, I used to get stuck in being worried that I would offend somebody but hey, if it's your health that's on the line, you need to have proper support. I'll give you an example. I had a therapist that would literally just sit there and look at me and nod her head. Like she wouldn't even take notes. She wouldn't ask me questions. She would literally would just sit there and look at me and nod her head. That was infuriating for me. My personality style, my learning style, I like for feedback. And so I left that therapist. I went to a coach, excuse me, I went to a therapist that uses a coaching style. And when I was working with that therapist for over 2 years, I learned so much. It was very productive for me. I learned so much about myself. And most importantly, he really helped me to learn how to be more compassionate towards myself and what's called more curious. And this is tip number two. He recommended a lot of books and podcasts. So, number two is keep learning. Keep learning about yourself. As you learn about yourself, you can be more compassionate with yourself. And as you're more compassionate with yourself, you can be more compassionate towards other people, including your loved one who's dealing with chronic mental health. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, I told y'all this early. Okay. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who are just listening, if you actually watch this video, you'll see that I have a new app who has, because my hair is salt and pepper gray, has salt and pepper gray hair and cornrowed braids in the cornrow style, and has glasses on and a turquoise colored shirt up against the purple background with seeds all over it, which represents plant your seeds of transformation. So those of you who may be watching, of course, you see that already, but anybody that's not watching the video, that's what you'll see this morning. Is super early, and I wanted to give y'all something pleasant to look at if you're watching the video version, the pre-recorded video version. All right, so we talked about number one, get your own therapist and or family therapist. Number two, keep learning about yourself for the purpose of being more compassionate, more curious about your own quirks, your own problems, so that you can be more compassionate towards yourself. Keep learning from books, podcasts. The fact that you're watching or listening to this, that's a great sign. That means you're already committed to continuing to learn. I know watching this if you weren't, right? So, one and two, therapy and learning. One and two. Let's go for number three here. Learning how to set proper boundaries. That's something that you'll get from one and two. But I include this as number three because if you are dealing with a family member who has, for instance, a personality disorder like narcissism, if you don't understand how to set boundaries properly, it could destroy you. That relationship could destroy you. It could get you to the point where you're not taking care of yourself properly because you're allowing other people, i.e., the person who has the severe chronic mental health issue, you're allowing them to run over your boundaries. So again, one, therapy, two, learning, but three, boundaries. Learn what that means. Learn what that means to have healthy boundaries and make a commitment to yourself that as you know better, you will do better. Number four, community. I talk about this in every single episode. When you are isolated, you're setting yourself up or you're being set up to bear all attacks, issues, everything completely by yourself. And when you're dealing with someone that has a chronic mental health illness, you cannot handle that all by yourself. You are not Superwoman. You're not Superman. If you happen to be a man listening to this, you can't do all of this by yourself. You need community. Now, I've had mental health care groups for parents of mentally ill young adults or teens. I've had groups like that recommended to me. There are some that are available via teleconference. So you can go to NAMI, NAMI.org, and find out, what's available to you. There are some that are available by phone. There are some available locally. It just depends on where you're at. In my opinion, having access to those groups over the teleconferencing it's faster to get involved and to plug in and to hear what other families are going through that may be similar to what you're going through. I'll give you an example. I am a parent of a young adult who had just turned 18 when the stuff hit the fan. So that means that because of HIPAA laws, if she had not told these people my name, I would never have known where she was or how she was doing, because they're not obligated to tell me that information because of HIPAA laws. And I found out that my story was mild. And I heard from other parents being plugged in with the support group. I heard from other parents who had situations where their child had disappeared and nobody told them where the young adult child, where they were at for like weeks or months. And they were starting to wonder if their child was dead. Can you imagine? And if you've already been through that, you already know. So getting into a support group can help you understand some things so that you'll know how to handle the healthcare system and the HIPAA laws, and make sure that while your person is in their right mind, that you remind them, that you set up safeguards so that if they find themselves in a situation where they are in a mental health institution locked up, or even in a jail locked up, you'll be able to remind them and emphasize to them to always tell people your name and your number. And I must say that that's the one thing that really helped us to come back from the abyss when my loved one was off the rails. They always told people my name and my phone number eventually, every single time. And so I'm really grateful for that, because there were times where we had no idea where she was at. And one of those times she was thousands of miles away from home. So if you can at least get into a support group and learn from listening to other people's stories, you don't even necessarily have to say anything, but you can listen and learn. It can be so very helpful for you. So I hope that these 4 tips are helpful for you. Now, before I close, and let me review them again. 1, get in your own therapy, individual and or family therapy, individual at the very least. Number 2, keep learning. Learn how to be more compassionate towards yourself, be more curious and more compassionate towards yourself, because the better you treat yourself, the better you're going to be able to treat other people, and be patient with other people. Be patient with yourself, and you'll be able to be patient with other people. So therapy, learning. 3 was, what was 3, y'all? I know 4 was get a community. Oh, Lord, I'm so sorry. I forgot what 3 is, but y'all heard it. You can rewind this if you need to and listen. It is important for you to never be isolated. If you'd like to reach out to me, if you'd like to become part of my Patreon community, I would love to have you. The lives will go live again starting in November. So today is just our special episode for the 31st of October. Can you believe it? It's the end of this month. This year has been a time warp. I mean, we are 2 months away from the end of the year. Time waits for nobody. And because of that, all the more reason for you to take care of yourself like never before. Emotionally, psychologically, and physically, and financially. Okay, yeah, let's hit that too. Many times people, and it's heartbreaking for me to see this and to say this. There was a woman in my community who posted on the Nextdoor app that because of her child's mental health breakdown, she's now at risk of losing her home because she's missed a lot of work to see after her child. Oh my gosh, her story is similar to ours. I'm thankful that we're not at risk of losing our home. But honest truth is things got dicey. Things got dicey. But God blessed us with what we needed to be able to sustain ourselves until I could start working more again. Financially, this has been one of the toughest years for me because I had to look after my child and I was not going to prioritize my work over my loved one who was living homeless for weeks, actually, really months. So I am definitely cautioning you to not ignore the financial stuff. Might not be able to fix it right this second, but don't ignore it. Acknowledge it and don't be ashamed. Acknowledge it. Go back and listen to 2 episodes ago where I talked about money shame, letting go of money shame. Acknowledge it. Learn as much as you can. We talked about that in point number 2. Learn as much as you can. Get financial books. Get a financial coach if you need. Learn as much as you can. Figure things out. You can do this without begging. That's the other thing is everybody needs to be able to maintain their dignity. When you end up in an emergency situation that is based off of a major crisis, like a family member going missing, it puts you in a position where you feel like you have to lose your dignity to get help. And it's sad, but it is what it is. We publicly shared that our loved one was missing, and we're grateful that people even offered and were available to help us financially, but I never did move forward with asking for financial support because publicly, of course, there might have been family or friends that gave us money, resources, whatever, privately on their own, but I never felt comfortable with doing a GoFundMe or anything like that, just because things are, when you have someone who has a mental illness, things are up in the air every second. If they change their mind that they're not going to continue to comply with their treatment, there's just no guarantees of how things will go. And it can give you a kind of a pit in the middle of your stomach because you are on edge waiting to see if this person, oh, I remember what number 3 was now, y'all, boundaries. Waiting to see if this person is going to make the better choices for themselves that will keep them healthy and safe. It's terrifying. I mean, I really don't have any other way to say that. It's absolutely terrifying. You have a young adult daughter in the streets of one of the toughest cities, I think Atlanta might be number 1 for trafficking. I don't know. I know that I was almost abducted when I was 25 years old. So I'm not going to get into that story now, but yeah, so I'm trying to help you understand just how terrifying that can be for a family who is dealing with mental health, for a loved one, especially a young adult that ends up in the street out of their mind. And when I saw that woman next door, I could relate to her. I know how it is to drop everything to go take care of your child, to try to help them get help. I think in her case, her child is actually a literal child. My child was a young adult, and I was very limited in what I could do. So, number 1 was get into your own individual therapy and/or family therapy. Number 2, keep learning. Number 3, learn how to set firm boundaries. Number 4, get in community, find support. And I guess I add on number 5, don't ignore the financial stuff and don't be ashamed about it either. Again, check out 2 episodes ago. to hear what I had to say on that topic. I want you to have a bit more support than I had when I started dealing with all of this. This past year, it's been, yeah, we're pretty much in our anniversary time now. This past year was one of the toughest times for our family ever. And I hope that I can be a resource and a help and a blessing to other leaders like myself who are going after their goals, but they get stopped in their tracks because they have a loved one who is out of their mind and not getting treatment. And they're trying to figure things out. I hope, I pray that I can be a help and a blessing to you. So, again, one, get your own therapist and family therapy if you can do both. Two, learn as much as you can, read, listen to podcasts. Also, unlearn some stuff. Get rid of toxic, unhealthy, unhelpful inputs. And that means people too. Some people you just can't be around when you're going through this kind of stuff. So, that comes into number 3, setting those healthy boundaries. I've talked about this in previous podcasts also. I'll see if I can put a link to a book I've recommended on that topic. 4, get in community. Don't let yourself be isolated. You need help. You cannot deal with this all by yourself. And number 5 was don't ignore the money stuff and don't let yourself be ashamed about it. All right, so I gave you 5 instead of 4. I hope that was helpful. Again, it's early morning here. I'm pre-recording this using an avatar on my Zoom. I hope that you all enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. Please share it if you know someone that you care about. It could be a coworker, it could be a friend, it could be another family member. If you know someone you care about who is really struggling to help someone they love who is dealing with chronic severe mental health problems, please pass this podcast on. Depending on the kind of response I receive, I may be sharing some more things like this and dig a little deeper into how you can start. And through my Patreon community, I definitely want to provide more support there. So where you can go to find out more, plantyourseeds.show. That's plantyourseeds.show. Plantyourseeds.show. You can learn all things about the podcast there. You can plug in and support the show there. You can donate if you'd like to donate. You can join our Patreon. Everything that you might be interested in if you want to support the show or become part of the community is located at plantyourseeds.show. Again, I'm Coach Donna Marie, and this podcast, Plant Your Seeds of Transformation, is produced by Lead Like a Queen Coaching and Consulting, LLC. God bless you. Really, God bless you. If you're dealing with these hard things, my heart goes out to you. I know that, I know personally that it could be extremely traumatic, totally life altering. So I hope you take my tips and use those. I hope that's helpful. God bless you. Bye bye.